Cool. Let's try it. Here we go. Taking you to that scene. Okay.
I'm still hearing that little guitar sound.
It's gone now. Yeah. That's right, everybody. There's no more guitar sound.
There is no more guitar sound. Oh, snap.
What's up? Here we are. Hey guys, welcome to Theory Thursday. Jason here at the Players Club in Burbank, and we're streaming on YouTube. Here we go, talking about ninth chords today. So last week we had gotten to the dominant chords and the major seven and the minor seven, and understanding that the seventh chord is the first of what we'll call extensions. So today we're going to move into the world of ninth chords, what that means, how to play them. I'll show you a couple chord voicings on them, but to kick it off, they basically sound like this. They're really cool. All right. So anyway, let's get into the theory of it and see where we go from here. Okay, so as we've been picking up before, we have our musical alphabet there at the top: A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and we would obviously go on from there. Now you could have your flats as well. You could have B flat, you could have D flat, and so on. But we'll stick with the sharps just to keep it streamlined and easy for now. So let's start off with an explanation of what a ninth chord is. So a ninth chord is a dominant chord with a 2 played above the octave. Now we're going to understand what that means in a second, but let's just start with a review of the dominant chord. Okay, so the dominant chord was the root, the 3, the 5, and the 7, the flat 7. Okay, the root, the major third, the 5, and the flat 7. But when we play a ninth chord, we're adding a 2 played above the octave. Now remember that an octave is 8, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll give you an example on the guitar here for a second. Here'd be your scale. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I continue on with that past 8, that next note is still 2, but it's also 9. Right, depending on how you want to count it. Okay, so when you're dealing with extensions, the 2 and the 9 are the same thing. Okay, the 2 and the 9 are the same thing. And we're going to look at 3 examples today: the G9, the D9, and the E9. But just to have a general overview of what the ninth chord is, it's a dominant chord, so root, major third, fifth, flat 7, with an additional note, a fourth note. And it's what we call the ninth note. It's the 2 played above the octave. So 1 and 8 are the same, and 2 and 9 are the same. I'm going to get into it here in a second. Okay, so bear with me. And if you have some questions, then put them in the chat and I'll get to it. But let's not jump off the bridge yet. Okay, so let's start with the G9 chord. Okay, we're gonna play the G9 chord together here. So everybody go to, as it says right here on the screen, the 10th fret of the A string. So go to the 10th fret of the A string with your middle finger. Then you're going to go to the 9th fret of the D string with your index finger. Then the 10th fret of the G with your third finger, and the 10th fret of the B with your fourth finger. Okay, so you have 10A, 9D, 10G, and 10B. If you strum that from the A string, you should have a sound something close to that. Okay? Now, go ahead and make sure you have that. So next thing to do is to isolate the notes on there. So the 10th fret of the A string is the note G. That would be our root. The 9th fret of the D string is the note B. That would be our major third. The 10th fret of the G is the note F. That is our flat 7, because a whole step below G is F. If you go to the top of the chart there and you see G, right, your musical alphabet, go back 2 notes and that's F, right? That's a flat 7. So that's where your 7's coming from. And then your pinky finger, the A, that is your 9. Okay, so take a look at the G again. Go look at the top of the chart at the musical alphabet. You see where it says G? After the G comes G sharp. After the G sharp comes A. So think of the G sharp as think of the G as the number 8. That's the octave, right? If we did a whole step above the octave, G to A, that's 8 to 9. So that's why A is called your 9. And if you have your G, your B, your F, and your A, that's your 1, your 3, your flat 7, and your 9, we call it a 9. Okay, then we call it a 9. Now, I know that's a little over the top for some of you right now. That's okay, right? The idea is to just consume the information. You can go back and you can review this, whenever you want, to really let it sink in. But that presses the question, well, where's the 5th? Sometimes the 5th doesn't have to be in the chord. It's implied, okay? It's what they call a perfect 5th. So because it has such a strong harmonic relation to the root, then we don't necessarily have to have it in there. So in the grip that we're using right here, the 10-9, 10-10 grip, there's no 5th of the chord. It's very simply the root, the 3rd, the flat 7, and then the 9. That's okay. If we put the 5th in there, you would hear that the chord would be a little too muddy, be a little too full sounding, okay? And in other grips of the 9th chord, you might have that 5th in there. So it's a choice. It's a player's choice whether you want to have it in there or not. But so far, just so we can recap and be on the same page, a 9th chord is a dominant chord with an additional note. The 2 of the scale played above the octave, so we count that as 9. You have your 1, your major 3rd, your 5th, your flat 7, which makes it the dominant, and the 9. So 8, 9. Again, referencing the musical alphabet for purposes here. Okay, so let me get back in, and we'll start reviewing again. So you see here, you have key of G, right? We have our triad, G, B, and D, right? So G is the 1, B is the 3, and D is the 5. Okay, that creates our G triad, or our G major, right? Now we said that F was the flat 7. Now if you look where it says 7 right there, it says F sharp. That's what's called the natural 7, or the major 7. That's only a half step from G. But when we flatten it, that little hashtag or sharp symbol goes away, and we have the note F. That's where we get our dominant. Now if you look at the map right here, and you see the A, the number 2 is underneath it, right? Remember I said that the 9th chord is just the 2 played above the octave. So try and imagine, or actually here, do this. Put your finger on the letter A and the number 2, and then make a rainbow to after that G, after that 8. So you can see the connection of like the A going after the G, right? The musical alphabet starts over. So that A becomes the 2, or the 9 in this situation. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, so here's where we got our dominant chord from. We had the triad plus that flat 7. Okay, so you have G, B, D, and F. Right, F was our flat 7, which made it the G7. Now, we have G, B, D, F, and then A. This is where we get the 9th chord sound from. Okay, so if you follow the course of events here, you can see that we start off with the G triad, G, B, D, right? That's your G major chord. Then we move to the dominant chord, which was the flat 7. So you have G, B, D, F. F is the flat 7. Again, use your key signature up at the top there. Then if we want to make it a 9th chord, we have the G, B, D, F, and the A. The A is the 2 played above the octave because we've already included the 7th note in there. So just let that sink in. I'm going to go over it a couple more times. Okay, so again, we're dealing with a chord shape That's 10, 9, 10, 10. Right? That's your chord shape. So everybody go to that. It has that very like bright, bluesy yet jazzy sound to it. Okay? That's one of your ninth chord shapes. I'm not playing the fifth in this shape just because of the shape. It doesn't, I could play it if I wanted to, but this grip, it's not required. It's fine. Okay? So I have a G7 plus the second degree of the scale, but played above the octave because I can't say G7 with an added 2. I have to say it's G9. The 2 is played above the octave. Okay? And now again, this might not set in right now, but just keep watching the video and I'm going to keep talking through it just so you can really understand what's going on. Now, I don't have the diagram for this one, but let's go through it in the key of C, for example. Okay, so this is a cool move here. If we wanted to use this ninth chord on a different key, we just simply move the shape. So now we move back to the 3rd fret. Okay, so we're at 3, 2, 3, 3. And that would be C9 because C is in the root. Okay, so everybody do that. 3, 2, 3, 3. Now, if I map that out, I have C, which is my root, E, which is my 3rd, B flat, which is my flat 7, it's a whole step below C, and then D, which is my 9, because D comes after C, right? C is 1, but it's also 8, and after 8 comes 9, and now I have my C9 grip, okay? Now, I could also move this up to the 5th fret, and that makes D9. So everybody go to the 5th fret. I'm sorry, G as your flat 7 there. That's the 5th fret of the G. And then the 5th fret of the B, that's the E note. E is the 9 because D is 1, but D is also 8 octave, right? So after 8 comes 9, after D comes E. Is this starting to make sense a little bit? Most people are like, nope. It's okay. It's going to take some time, right? With these ninth chords, really you want to just start getting the grips down and hearing the sound, right? Now you could also flatten out or bar your finger on the last 3 strings as well. Right, and you can get that vibe. It's cool. All right, so let's go through it from the top one more time. Ninth chord is a dominant chord with a 2 played above the octave. You have your example of G. That's how you map out your G chord. It's the 10th fret A string, and so on. Your notes are G, B, F, which is your flat 7, and then your A, which is your 9. Breaking it down some more from the triad. Okay, key of G. Those are your notes in the key of G. Your triad, or just your G major chord, would be G, B, and D. That's your 1, 3, 5. If I wanted to make that dominant or a 7th chord, F sharp would be my natural or major 7. If I flat that, meaning move it down half of a step, then it becomes F. So there's my dominant chord, G, B, D, F. If I add on an A is the 2, so you can see the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. A is the 2. So I play that above the octave because I have that 7 in there. So if F is the flat 7, any note after that, I have to call it for a number higher than 8. And as like next week, we're going to talk about 13th chords, and it's the same concept. So you have to keep stacking on top of what's already there. So A is the 2, but played higher than the 7th. So we call it a 9. Okay, so again, it's just a shape that has an interesting sound. We call it a ninth chord. There's several ways to play it. That, you can bar out, you can do that whole thing, right? There's a lot of fun things that you can do there. It's a dominant chord with a 2 above the octave. Okay, I keep saying it, but I want you to really like understand the concept there, right? So Why is this important to know? Well, because if we're starting to advance our solo skills, we want to start thinking outside of the 1, 3, and 5 concept, right? We want to start understanding, well, what's the chord that's being played underneath of this? Now, like I said, this is a blues or a blues jazz chord, so if there's a progression that's going G9 to D9, if I know that's the progression, then I know that I can hit the 2 or the 9 of that scale within the solo, right? And it's gonna illuminate that chord a little bit more. So that's why you would want to know your ninth chord theory, right? Is it allows you to harmonize with the chord if you're doing solos. It also allows you to build the chord shape on your own. So if you're in a standard grip and you want to add a 9, well, now you know what to do. Okay, so I don't think anybody has any questions in the chat. That's fine. You're always welcome to text me or email me any questions that you do have. We're going to continue with this extension conversation next time when we talk about the 13th chords. But this video should go live again in the next few minutes. It'll post. Rewatch it several times and let it consume in, right? So this is where the theory starts to go off the deep end a little bit when we get into the world of the extensions. But for now, just take it for what it is, right? It's a jazzy, bluesy sounding chord that uses 2 additional notes above the triad to create an effect, or really to provoke an emotion. And that's why we're using it, is we want to fit it into a context where it produces a certain type of sound, which then in turn produces a certain type of emotion for the listener. Okay, it's all it is. You wouldn't use this in certain genres. You would use it in others, right? It's an effect. Think of it like a bend or a vibrato or like a chorus pedal. We use those things to enhance our music. So we use these chord extensions to enhance our sound. And that's all it is, right? You don't need to know it. It's good to know it. It's just a tool, like everything else we've been doing. Okay? So with that, I'll leave you. Review the video several times. Email me, text me questions. I'm happy to answer them and go over this as many times as I need. But now you have the video, so you can watch through it. Okay, there's Greg. Yes, deep, clearly out of my. Okay, so you guys keep safe out there. We're going to be back next week. We're going to do a Jimi Hendrix week next week. So there's going to be some Jimi Hendrix techniques. We'll be doing a Jimi Hendrix jam. And then we're going to talk about the 13th chord and how we use that. So you guys have a great weekend. Again, just send me a message if you need anything. And thanks for hanging out. I'll see you soon.